Just to give you an idea of how respected Lance Reddick is as an actor, a few years ago, he was walking by a cafe in New York when someone yelled out, "Good actor!" And when Lance turned around, it was none other than Philip Seymour Hoffman. Perhaps Philip had seen Lance as Police Lieutenant Cedric Daniels on The Wire.
You can stand there, dripping with liquor smell and self-pity if you got a mind to. But this case, it means something.
Or as an undercover narc trying to bust the drug trade on Oz.
What's your first step?
Making good friends with the bad guys.
But as good as he is, Lance really just fell into acting. He actually studied physics in college for a year before dropping out to follow his real passion, which is music. He trained as a classical pianist and spent a number of years as a struggling musician, working odd jobs just to support his young family. But having had the experience of being a college dropout, Lance pushed himself, took a leap of faith, and applied to Yale Theater School. He got in, started doing small theater, then Broadway, and acting just kind of took over. He spent a couple of seasons on Lost, and now he's delving into another bizarro world as Homeland Security agent on the sci-fi drama Fringe.
Uncover something substantial and I will have your back. Until then, I am not so convinced. Now, can you handle that?
Lance, still into music. In 2010, he put out a debut jazz record, and he's branching out now as a producer, as one way to get African-American stories into the Hollywood mainstream. Everybody, please welcome to the show, Lance Reddick! How are you? Real pleasure, man. It is lovely to see you here.
It's good to be here.
I've only ever seen you once in public. I was in Vancouver once, and I was walking up the street, and I saw you get on the SkyTrain. So I just walk on. I think you're shooting Fringe, and you just got on the pub.
I was probably going to work.
You probably were just getting public transit, and my first thought was, it's Lieutenant Daniels. And I thought, no, he has a name. He's a person, right? He's a person. Things have been going really well for you, obviously, in the post-Wire world. But
I've been very fortunate, yeah.
But it's an unlikely story, right? Because this wasn't really happening for you for a while, was it?
Well, you know, it's so funny because whenever I have young actors ask me for career advice, I never know what to tell them because I would never tell anybody to do it the way I did it. I was living in Boston, and my daughter was almost a year old, and I was a struggling musician, and I was working 3 jobs, and I just come off a double shift of waiting tables, and I went straight to a double shift of delivering newspapers because it was the 100th anniversary of the Wall Street Journal, and I delivered these really heavy bundles to office buildings. And at about 5:30 in the morning, I went to lift one, and I just felt something go. It turned out that I tore a muscle in my back, and that was really a turning point for me because I realized, you know, you gotta. You know that expression, if you keep going in the direction you're going, you're gonna wind up where you're headed?
Yeah.
Well, I realized that if I didn't change something dramatically, that, you know, and I had to come to terms with the fact that the recording studio that I was working with was just taking me for a ride.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was the oddest thing. I just said, you know what? I don't have any resources. I don't have any help. What can I do?
You went to a Quaker school?
Yeah, I went to a Quaker school.
Did you take any of those values with you? How about the furniture? Did you take?
No. The reason I paused like that is because I've never really thought about it like that. But I can't say of all. I don't consider myself a Christian.
Yeah.
But of all the Christian denominations, the Quakers are the ones that I respect the most. Because I feel the history of political activism, of pacifism, of really kind of walking the talk. So inadvertently, yeah, I think I did.
So you prayed. You don't believe, but you prayed.
Yeah, and actually at the time, I would say that I believed in God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't have called it necessarily Christian, but I believed in something and I called it God.
Okay.
And I prayed. And I thought, and the thought came to me, well, you can sing, you can act. So let me try that. So I went on a couple of musical theater auditions. I got the Boston Phoenix. Yeah. Just started looking for local auditions. I realized very quickly that musical theater wasn't me. I started going on some straight acting auditions. Yeah. And I just started getting cast and getting cast and getting cast.
You were part of a really important play. You were an understudy, weren't you, for Angels in America?
That was my first job at a drama school.
So that's a big, that's a play that talks about the AIDS explosion in America in the Reagan era, right? And so much more.
Yeah.
Right? And then you realize how art can be about social change, too. Was it important to you to be a part of something like that?
Trying to do things that had artistic integrity, was very important to me. And the theater, straight theater in New York at the time was really, really vibrant. But it wasn't until my experience on The Wire that I realized how important my work as an actor can be socially and politically,
Well,
not just artistically.
you have a connection to Baltimore, obviously.
Yeah.
It's where you are.
Yeah.
And Baltimore, then a whole segment of the population only knows Baltimore because of The Wire now. You've even seen the police chief complain about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's as far as how Baltimore is perceived, that's, I guess it's kind of a mixed blessing.
Yeah. Let's play a clip here from The Wire. It's sort of. It's kind of, watch this.
Okay.
Anything else you've neglected to tell me, Detective Fried?
Yes, sir. For many years, I wanted to tell you how much I loved you, and that for the 13 years that I was sitting over there in the pawn shop, I was just hoping that it would be the porn shop.
I'm only into white women. I'm sorry.
Oh, shit.
Lester!
Oh, my goodness.
That's awesome.
I'm, see, now that I know where you film, I'm going to get you.
We're only here for 1 week.
No. No, I've got you Toronto.
You'll be there. What's your, that show it's crazy how big it is, and it wasn't big when you guys were making it. It was really after the fact when it caught on.
Yeah, I mean, wow, there's so many different aspects to The Wire.
Like, are you cool with talking about The Wire? I mean, I'm gonna ask you anyway, but are you cool with, like, some actors are not cool if that's how people remember them in a way.
Well, I feel fortunate because I was literally cast in Lost right out of The Wire, and I was cast in Fringe while I was on Lost. So I don't feel that that's the only thing people see me as. And the other thing is, I just feel that it's such a milestone in television history that it would be foolish of me to be anything but honored to be a part of it.
What was really interesting about it too was the cast. It was an enormous African-American cast, and it wasn't just white cops chasing black drug dealers. I mean, black cops, black chiefs, you know. It was one of the very few shows that was like that. And were you aware of that when you were on the show looking around going, this is very unique?
Well, it's funny. Once again, you know, The Wire happened, you know, we shot the pilot in 2001. And so we started shooting the first season in 2002. So it really came in the wake of the 90s. And in the 90s, it was this huge explosion in black talent in Hollywood. And so when we were shooting it, at least particularly when we started shooting it, I didn't really think too much about that this is unique, that this is a successful dramatic series that's starring mostly black people. I wasn't thinking about it that way. I was thinking more that this is one of the best things that's ever been on television, and I know it. I mean, it's funny, I remember when I read the pilot for The Wire before I auditioned, I didn't want to do television. I thought television was me. It's funny, because my career's been 90% television in the last 20 years, last 10 years. But I just wanted to do theater and film. And when I read that pilot, I thought, I have to be on the show. The pilot was that good.
What was the choice to be naked in most of those scenes? There was a lot of you with no clothes on in that. What was that all about?
What? Thank you.
Stick around, more with Lance Reddick after this. As you can probably tell, we have a live studio audience. I'd love it if you would join us. Go to strombo.com/tickets for more.
What the is this?
It's the Bakugan display you asked me to set up.
You tell me. Would a Garganoid call this a Bakugan display? Or would a Garganoid call this a bitter insult to his race? Not worth shitting on for all the savory dream crystals in the lavender cloud dimension. Know the goddamn toys and show them some respect!
We're back with Lance Reddick here in Vancouver, where he's shooting Fringe. That's for Funny or Die, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's actually about a Canadian company, a toy that was introduced again in North America by a Canadian company.
I'd never heard of Bakugan until...
I think Spin Master, a Canadian company, brought that in.
Oh, did it?
So you get these really heavy dramatic roles, but obviously you like doing comedy.
I love doing comedy. Yeah, I did a lot of it in theater when I was in school.
Do you worry about getting typecast now?
You know, it's funny. Until I did The Wire, it never occurred to me.
Yeah.
Because I just felt that, you know, I'm a character actor, so I do a whole range of things. Occasionally, but particularly the past year or so, I feel like I've started to be able to do a bunch of different things like that, for example. Right. So, yeah, I'm not really worried about it.
You gone through a lot of loss lately, man. You know, passing of parents and also when your first wife or when your wife died. How has that been for you? I mean, aside from the obvious tragedy of it.
Wow. Yeah, I lost my mom November, basically a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And then my ex-wife, my kid's mom died. She passed away almost exactly a year later, November this past year. And then my father passed away February. So it's been you really, you know, it's funny in this business. It's so much about either getting the next job or who's the bigger star or how much money you're making and I'm not saying that that's what it's necessarily been about for me, but you get caught up in that just trying to get the kind of work that you want to get done. And sometimes you forget that we're mortal. And the other thing you have to, it made me realize that I always have to keep in front of me why I'm doing this. You know, it's interesting, I watched The Iron Lady a few weeks ago. And so I went on a Meryl Streep binge. I saw some clips of her from an interview she did in the Inside the Actors Studio about 15 years ago. And she talked about, I'd never heard anyone put it so eloquently. She talked about what we do as actors is you're trying to give life, you're bringing to life a soul, whether it's fictional or otherwise. That's not you, and to do honor to that. And you got to do it in the context of telling a story that makes a difference.
I mean, there's a natural, I mean, you obviously have your family around you, but there is this, I watched my mother go through it. When her mother passed, I heard her say the word orphan, and you never think about yourself in that context or your mother in that context. Do you ever have those moments where you look around and go, wow, my reality has completely changed now. My daily life is different.
Yes and no. Ironically, I felt it more, I definitely felt it with my mother. I felt it more with my ex-wife because suddenly I was my kid's only parent. And this is hard. I have great kids. I have great kids. I mean, I don't have good kids. I have great kids. And it's because they had a great mom. And I need to honor that.
Thank you. Watch The Lance and Fringe, Fridays at 9 on City TV. And I think May 11th is the finale for season 4. And of course, you can watch them on a bunch of other shows on DVD. Lance Reddick will be right back.